The good news is this year, as it has been last year, that being in Richmond is a lot better place than being in a lot of other locations. But we are still dealing with the same trends. So the headwinds that are going on nationwide are going to have an impact here, in my opinion. I want to emphasize 4 headwinds. The first one obviously has to do with jobs. The gold lines that you see there, if you notice, those bars are going down. That's what you need to know. The line that you see that's shooting up toward the sky is the unemployment rate. It's very simple. Jobs times earnings equals total income, and that's what they can spend going into the holiday season. Energy costs are very high. We talked about them being very high last year. They're even higher this year. And credit conditions are tight. If your customers want to get access to credit, the door is not open as wide as it was last year. And so as a result, if you take all those factors, look in the lower right, and it's going to tell you what's happening with consumer confidence. It's obviously down, and it's down at recessionary levels. In the face of those headwinds, we have 5 fewer shopping days, official shopping days this year. Probably your biggest shopping day this year is going to be Saturday, December the 20th. The U.S. economy is entering into a consumer housing-centered recession. We've had a lot of discussion about this all year long, and by the time we finally resolve it, it'll be over. So that'll be the good news. How many people think that we're in a recession? How many people think everything's fine? Great. Okay. We have one. From our perspective, we're thinking retail sales in the maybe 1 to 2% category this year. I think it's going to be a tough environment.
The National Retail Federation, we're in Alan's camp. We're forecasting specific growth of 2.2%. No, it sounds better than 1%. It does sound better, but it basically means the same thing. To put it into a historical perspective for you, over the last 10 years, the average growth we've seen is 4.4%. It's been a very tough year for retailers and consumers alike. Food inflation is another factor that's basically just taking their disposable income. It's been doing it all year. The good news is, and yes, there's good news, is this is not a surprise. Retailers are going into this holiday season with their eyes wide open. That means they're planning accordingly. They're planning their inventories. They're very conservative, very lean with their inventories, and that's a good thing. This year, we might see a little bit of a dip in gift card spending. That's because consumers are focused on bargains. When you're left with a choice between a $50 gift card or buying a $50 sweater discounted at 40%, you know where they're going to go with that. In this kind of an economic environment, all retailers become discount retailers, and that's going to include the luxury market, I'm afraid. Self-spending for a consumer can equate to just over $100. This year, there's a serious question whether or not consumers are going to be so generous for themselves as they're buying gifts for others. Everything's going to take a backseat to price. But if everybody's discounting, the question becomes, how do you stand out? Because of that, I think what we're going to see are retailers try to create an emotional connection between their brand, their product, and the consumer. I think, for example, Apple has done a tremendous job doing this. The iPod, it's an MP3 player. It plays music. I have 5 million devices that play music. But I love this thing. What would normally be a discretionary purchase into a necessity purchase. And the retailers that are successfully able to do that, whether it be with the right pricing strategy, whether it be with the right merchandise mix, or whether it be with just good old-fashioned customer service, I think we'll end up winning the day. 94% of consumers surveyed said they plan to spend the same or less this year for the holidays. 83.3% feel a major impact from gas prices. Not a surprise there. 50% of consumers say they're going to shop closer to home. That could mean one-stop shopping, Advantage malls, Advantage discounters. The credit crunch remains a serious concern for all of us, for businesses and for consumers alike.
Do you have leverage? Are you willing to change, or are you just going to take this? Because I'm sorry, I don't work with Walmart and all those guys. I work with Jane's Gift Shop. I teach people how to sell their merch. When was it acceptable to allow some 18-year-old kid not to be trained and to be texting while they're at your work? That's your fault. You guys that want to tell me it's the economy, that's like the football player who misses the pass and says, "Coach, it wasn't my fault, the other guy." No, you're not catching the pass. How dare you call each other and commiserate about how no one's in the store? Big deal. Oh, it's the economy. Why don't we just stop whining? Why don't we just get out there and reclaim America? And so when you say you can't compete and you got bitter Betty answering your phone every morning and you're telling me, oh, but you don't understand, Bob. She's there every day at 10. And I'm like, yeah, that's my point. She's there every day at 10. So how many of you would want your kids to grow up to be a salesperson? Yeah, that's amazing to me because I want everybody to be a salesperson. Nothing in this room happened without a salesperson. Not a stick of furniture, not a piece of clothes. There is nothing in here that happened without being sold. So why can't we own being a salesperson? Oh, that's bad. Well, get over it. This is America. This is America. You have to sell an idea or you have to sell a product or you're nothing. And that's the problem with education right now because we aren't teaching that. There are winners and losers. It should matter when they walk into your store. And if it's not remarkable, meaning in a good way, because there's a lot of remarkable that's bad, right? If it doesn't stand out, I've got to tell somebody how great it is, then you're not going to be around here next year. So I ask you, can you compete? You better believe it. And a lot of people are going to get burned by this economy. There's no two ways about it. But it doesn't have to be you, is my point.
What makes you stand out if everybody is competing on price? And I think that's what we're all trying to say is, how do you stand out? And it is about service. It always has been.
Again, I don't think this internet fad is going away soon. You might want to find that that could be an opportunity instead of marking your merch down, finding other channels that it can sell in.
You have an advantage. You're in the community. You know your customer better than anyone. And it's about hiring the right people to leverage that.
That 40% of consumers research online before they ever go to your store.
True.
That's huge.
We put out a survey of consumers in terms of companies they reward for best customer service. More and more we're actually seeing online retailers on that list. And the traditional retailers complain, well, that's not fair, you know. We have to do so much more. It's just, you know, they get their merchandise on time and it's a good experience. And you know what? Yeah.
If I'm going to go to your little independent store and get bad or worse service than I would at a big box, I will never come back. And you'll never know it.
When Amazon says it'll arrive in 3 days and it arrives in 2, guess what? You had a great experience.
There are millions of people around the world that wish that they had the opportunities we have every day. There's millions of Americans that wish they could own their own business. How dare you say I can't compete because Wall Street